everyone, greetings from National Skills Network. This is Madhuri, and today we are going to look at an important topic which concerns youth in India. And most of the youth, as we know, need a lot of help and support when they are trying to make themselves employable. And this is where all kinds of skills come into play. And to talk about this very important topic today, we have with us Ms. Nikita Bengani, who is the Director Youth Program at Quest Alliance. So welcome to this chat, Nikita. It was lovely meeting you recently in Delhi at the Quest event, where you had the formal launch of the digital content and curriculum for employability skills. So I thought, why not go deeper into this topic and look at the larger issues concerning ITIs and the students of ITIs and learn more from you. So let me start by asking you about the phenomenal work that Quest Alliance is doing through Future Right Skills Network. This is very interesting, and we would like to know what this entire network is all about and how does it work.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madhuri, and I'm really excited to be here. I'm glad that you're doing a feature on, the world of ITI students, and especially talking about the employability skills, because, like, I think we all of us know that while it's gotten mainstreamed in a lot of good ways in the last few years, but I think we still have a long way to go where, it's given the prominence and the importance in terms of, how much focus and attention ITIs are being able to give to employability skills and overall development of young people. So yeah, very happy to be here and happy to discuss some of this. So I think I can talk a little bit before we jump into employability skills straight. I think I could talk a little bit about, what is the work we've been doing with ITIs and this whole idea behind Future Right Skills Network. So just very quickly, the intent behind the Future Right Skills Network is to bring about ITI transformation. And today, as we know, there are almost 25 lakh young people who are a part of the ITI ecosystem between the 15,000 government and private ITIs. So the idea is that how does one bring about systems transformation? And systems transformation, again, is such a big, wide, audacious goal to have, because there are so many factors that inform and influence systems, right? So I think the whole idea of this to become a network to do system strengthening, systems change work is important, because it's not possible for one organization to be able to bring about system strengthening and transformation. So the idea with this to be a Future Right Skills Network is to work towards collaborative action on systems change and system strengthening, and bring together multiple stakeholders like government, private sector, practitioners, NGO, influencers on to one common space. So if you see this here, this is literally like a, three-way partnership between the Ministry of Skills and Entrepreneurship Development at a central level to a lot of the state departments of employability and trainings that we work with. At one end, then also working with a lot of the donors and funding partners who are interested in actually working with government closely on a systems change, system strengthening mandate to come and, have some kind of a common vision towards a collective action and a common problem statement. And then also bring together a lot of, organizations and CSOs who've been invested in the idea of skills and bringing, again, large scale, innovations, interventions, and systems change mandate for government education systems. So the idea is also to connect a lot of these organizations together on this common platform. So that's kind of the core of the Future Right Skills Network currently. And, as part of our funding partners, we've had Accenture, Cisco, JPM, who've really come together to kind of, put this whole platform together along with us and the network together, and sort of, have the vision that I spoke about. And currently, as part of this, we work very closely with about 9 state governments, very closely with the central government and the Ministry of Skills as well. So that's kind of, a little bit of the background of what we're trying to do through the FRSN. And just very briefly, the 4 areas that we try and touch upon as part of the Future Right Skills Network includes these 4 pillars. One is to really say that how do we build digital public goods, which can be available, accessible to anybody who wants to make use of these, right? So even the employability skills curriculum that we spoke to you, that you came for the launch, is actually not just going to get used in the ITI ecosystem. It's actually meant for anybody in the skilling ecosystem that ministry works with. They want to plug it in there, whether it's the short-term skilling programs run by NSDC, or it's the PMKVY scheme that is coming up, or even the state skilling missions for that matter. So we're also trying to actively work with the ministry to see how more and more people can make use of it. The other thing that is a big focus for FRSN is really to do more on-ground work as well, and I think that's where we really drive our expertise to do what we do, right? So we engage with these 8-9 state governments, really hands-on, on-ground level, where we are constantly innovating, doing experimenting, try and building large-scale models, get systems to adopt it and own it. So the intent really is that we co-create interesting models with the system and then help in institutionalizing some of those, whether it's around placements, whether it's around family engagement, whether it's around focusing on career development or educator development. So a lot of these mandates is what we work on, and engaging with the system in a more direct delivery manner. And then the third part of it is really to build, a constant pool of knowledge and innovation, and hence, do this, co-create this with the larger community of organizations who see value in doing this together to bring about, again, a large-scale systems change on the skilling front. And again, the last part of it is to constantly engage with research, and looking at future-facing sector, future of work, how is technology going to impact the skilling ecosystem, how green is going to impact, for example, constantly looking at, evaluating the kind of work we're doing and where is it taking us, and also engage in advocacy around some of the core issues when it comes to skilling, whether it's women and non-traditional livelihoods, whether it's focusing on employability skills and 21st century skills as a core mandate. So, these are kind of the 4 or 5 areas within which, the Quest journey has been through the FRSN network. Yeah, so I'll stop here, Madhuri, if this helps, and if you've got any questions.
Yeah, yeah, that was, I think, a good overview, about what the network is all about. And one area which I would like to pick from there, as you said very rightly, the employability skills is something very generic. This can be used by anyone and everyone. But for the sake of this particular conversation, I think let us focus on ITIs, because I think currently for them it's a part of their curriculum, official curriculum. But with the research we do, we get to see that most of these ITI students make it more like a test or an exam which they have to just clear, right? At the
Yeah.
How does this curriculum make it interesting for them? That is one.
Yeah.
Second one, how does it help them realize that this is not just a test or an exam? Like you have this gamified learning. I've seen the entire content, So you have very interesting things built into it where it's more like an immersive experience where they
Yeah.
can identify with the content. So how does this work? How has it been received by these students?
Yeah. No, I think it's important that you brought this up. I think for us as Quest, very early on, since we started almost, technology-enabled learning has been at the very heart of our work. And I think one of the big convictions for us comes, on technology for learning, comes from the fact that every learner is so unique in their need for learning and how they process learning. And again, traditionally, if you see, learning is not considered as a very joyful or a happy process, right? All of us have gone through the motions of going to school, then colleges, and doing degrees. But it was always like, you want to just get this done, get your degrees,
Yeah.
move on in life, get a good job, right? But the whole idea of learning for the sake of learning and building knowledge wasn't really there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the joy of learning and considering every student the same and expecting everyone to move at the same pace has been a bit of a struggle. And then, of course, the role the trainer or a teacher plays in a learning environment also is very critical in terms of how relevant, engaging, useful one can make it. So I think from that perspective, Quest has been a big advocate of blended learning experiences. And I think there are 2 parts to it, right? Like, I think, and that kind of answers a big part of your question in terms of how will this help learners learn better. So blended learning experiences have 2 parts, right? One is a more self-led learning processes. Again, a big part of our ethos and values have been that how do we create more autonomy in learning processes for the learner itself, right? Otherwise, it's always like, the teacher will come, the teacher will decide what to teach. Everybody is expected in the class to learn with the same pace, same time, same thing together, and expected to move at the same pace.
Yeah.
But in reality, that's not how learning happens. Different people process things differently. So when you give the agency of learning in the hands of the learner through some of this digital content, which is built very consciously with relatable stories of these young people themselves, which kind of brings in, like you said, a lot of gamification principles, which kind of helps make learning very non-threatening, right? So that kind of automatically engages and makes the learning process a lot more joyful. And hence, kind of, we've seen that when we've, and obviously, like, it's taken us many, many years to get to that right mix of, playfulness to seriousness to how much concept to put, how small the lesson should be, how long should be. So I think we've kind of been able to figure a way to, design these experiences that are relevant and engaging. So that's one part of it, which learner can then drive on their own. So when they go home, they open the app, or even at the idea is when they're being able to see it in the systems, they can pick and choose what are the different things they want to learn, right? And what is something that strikes them from the 12 modules that are there around, like diversity and inclusion to citizenship to work readiness to career thought process to digital literacy, many, many relevant topics.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives the learners a lot more choices, and that definitely enhances engaging with learning processes. I think the other bit around why it's very important to have a trainer's involvement in the learning processes, because, like, while learner-led processes can be very individual-led, but you also need to engage in group teaching learning processes, because especially things like employability skills and life skills and 21st century skills, a lot of it actually gets built when you hear a lot of perspective around how I look at conflict resolution versus how you'd look at it, or a third person would look at it, right? So these are not like science and math, which is very factual in some sense. These are a lot about touching, feeling, thinking, reflecting, learning, perspective sharing. So hence, like, even when students come together in a group teaching learning processes, when they so how our processes work is that it's a flipped classroom model where learners are expected to actually learn these digital lessons, three, four things, three, four topics they would learn, and then they would come to the classroom. And then the classroom transaction is the whole experience is about the students sharing what they learned, what resonated with them, what did it remind them of, what are the stories of their life, how they're applying this learning in their own context, what are some of their confusions. So this exchange really then helps build employability skills in a lot of ways, right? So I think something that we've been able to build out over the years after experimenting a lot with technology for learning, and how do we make it a really engaging process. So hence, I think for us, we were trying to convince the government for a very long time that we need to move towards technology enabled learning as a process and not just lead with the books. So I think finally post COVID, a lot of this kind of became a reality where to their credit also, like, a lot of initially when tech enabled learning started to happen during COVID, because there was no other choice. But to government's credit, even post COVID, they realized the value of what some of these experiences can bring in. And hence, I think then we got commissioned to build out this entire employability skills module with 12 modules in it. And I think these bite-sized anytime, anywhere learning with stories, with games, I think that kind of makes it fairly exciting. And I think another big thing that it helps with is that it reduces actually the effort for the educator, right? Because a lot of the conceptual learning can actually happen when you see some of these stories, when you play some of these games and engage with it, right? Then the teacher's role then becomes more about, just facilitating group teaching learning processes for many topics together. So one of the things that we also have been talking to our educators as we are training them is to say that, this is actually helping reduce your effort and make your life easier. And you can actually go a level deeper in your conversations with the learners, as opposed to talking about what are the 5 steps of conflict resolution. They would have already learned that and come. Now you can talk about, okay, let's apply this in my life and see how will I solve a particular conflict. Okay. Right? So it helps you go deeper with this learning process. And hence, I think learners start to see a lot more relevance and a lot more value in doing some of it.